Hi there, I'm John of John's Carnivorous Plants. This is my indoor nursery, and today we are going to talk about how to harvest sundew seeds. Now, sundews, I get asked a lot, like, when is the seed, when are they ready to harvest? Well, whenever you have a flowering sundew, so like here's a Pediolaris that's in bloom, so woolly sundew, you'll notice the flower stalk, nice, still has green coloration to it. Other species that aren't as fuzzy will be, much more green. And that's your indication that your flower is still growing, still healthy, etc., forming, new blooms and whatnot. Species like Drosera capensis or Drosera spatulata, they'll actually ripen the seeds lower down in the stalk before the top flower gets done all the way, blooming. But it's still, I suggest just waiting for the entire stalk to get done. And whenever it is done, it'll be straight like this. And you notice this is brown. It is not a green color. Each one of these is the seed pods. So you could take and just with your fingers, just roll them around, and the seed will just, generally speaking, just fall right on out very easily. Now, what are you looking at whenever you're like, oh, what are the seeds of these plants look like? Well, I know it's probably not going to focus well for me, but come on, get in there. Focus. Trying to focus the camera while it's doing it. There we go. See these little black specks? Right there at the top of my finger. Those little black specks are the seeds. They are incredibly small. So because of this, I would suggest doing it over a white piece of paper, or basically anything that's like very light colored, to where you could see the contrast between the very dark seed and the light background, and make it so it's something that you can, just like on how I have this container here, where it is very well contained, because the seeds will go everywhere because of their small size. To store them, you just keep them dry and in a cool, dark place for, I think it's like 2 to 3 years is what most sundew seeds will be good for. You'll get germination after that, but I think there's definitely a point whenever the germination just starts going downhill. But for the most part, sundew seeds keep for a couple of years. They're very easy to harvest, especially if you wait until the flower stalk is all the way done. Now, in some species, you need to manually pollinate them, which that's definitely a future video. I've done a previous video on how to pollinate Pediolaris sundews, and the same concept does apply, which, yeah, since this one's actually open, I can actually give you a quick overview, if it'll focus. Stop wiggling. So like there's yellow little anthers. It's kind of hard to see because of how small the flower is. But in the center of the flower, there's little yellow bits, which are barely showing up on the camera. And then there are little whitish, almost like hairs. Those are the female parts of it. So the yellow part basically is the pollen and the anthers. And you touch that to the white parts, which are the female bits. Pollinates if it's a self-pollinatable plant, and will, generally speaking, produce seed whenever all is said and done within about a month or two, as the flower stalk, grows up. If you have plants like the Pediolaris, they will not self-pollinate. And there's all kinds of other sundews. It's a very diverse genus where you'll find many of them some cannot self-pollinate. Some of them actually can self-pollinate, but you need to manually pollinate because the anthers will not actually touch the, I think it's stigma, style, whatever, yeah, stigma, I think it is. I always mix up the parts of a flower. But the female bits will always, you'll actually be able to see the pollen directly on them if you've successfully pollinated the plant. Like you'll see like yellow on that whitish bit that I'm talking about. Now, the success rate, usually generally speaking, is very high, especially if like you look up, there's a article in the ICPS, so International Carnivorous Plant Society's page, that basically breaks down what species are self-compatible, which ones are not, which ones can hybridize. And it's a rather complex topic that, frankly, a video that's about 5 to 6 minutes is not going to cover it all. So I highly suggest checking out that that article. I'm going to leave a link in the description, and it will be your guide of whether or not what you're trying to do has been attempted before, and if it has been successful. Because there's varying levels of success, even with ones that are known to work, like for hybridization, that sometimes they'll produce seed, but it never germinates. Sometimes they'll just never produce seed. Sometimes they'll produce seed, germinate, and then the plants are just very unhealthy. There's everything in between. So it's definitely worth checking out if you're willing to go in and start trying to pollinate your own sundews and trying to make your own crosses and whatnot. Highly suggest it, because I would love to see more beautiful hybrid sundews out there. It's one of the beauties of being in horticulture, is that we can make things that normally would never exist in nature, and in some cases they become very beautiful and very desirable. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope this answers the question of when can you harvest sundew seeds, which the TLDR is when the stalk is all the way brown and pretty much straight. If it's still got some curl in it, let it go. And if you're aside, Pediolaris sundews, their flower stalks take an exceptionally long time to mature. So it could be up to like 3 to 4 months in those cases. I think it's mainly because the hairs on the plant make it so the moisture doesn't want to dry out as quickly. But you can harvest them a little bit earlier. It's just, you know, a lot of things by chance and by eye that you got to do with experience. Thank you so much for watching this. Please check out the links in the description. Come join the Carnivorous Plant Discord and say hi, or come buy a plant for me and help support the channel. Thank you so much, and I hope to catch you on the next one.